Hey there, it's the Slya. This is an alternate take on how to finish P2 to P4 in League Raid 10. Well, almost. Left over around 90 million in P4 due to the incorrect execution of a tactic that could have easily finished. Whilst the teams I have displayed aren't necessarily the best teams to use in these phases, they are useful in clean-up scenarios. I know that Raven and Raiden/King can finish P1 and P2, and that Entangling Poison Ivy with DMC supported by Raven can finish off P1 to P3 in 1 pip. But I had already used up those teams for the sub-bosses, as usually I only play sub-bosses and my league finishes Brainiac. I start with BWTD with God Killer and Robin King with Puppet. Then at the 3 minutes 22 second mark I show the fight where I cleaned up what was left of P3 and moved into P4, and at the 7 minutes mark I start my final cleanup of P4. Now normally BWTD and Robin King are useful for one-shotting both P3 and P4 in the same pip. But here a bit of P2 was left. I didn't have Raven and King/Raiden or EPI left, and in hindsight I could have used Beast Boy to try and overcome the critical attack immunity of P2. But I stuck to BWTD and Robin King as an addition to P3 and P4. With Robin King's critical attack immunity disable passive, I have been able to finish P2 off with them as well. So these guys finished off P2 or what was left of it when I joined in, and should have finished off P3 easily. But what is cut out of this video is I was interrupted by a few phone calls from relatives, so in P3 a bit got left over, but clearly these guys were doing good enough damage to have gone on to P4 and doing some damage there despite starting in P2. Same strategy always used in this team, whereby you apply GK with BWTD to reduce Brainiac's damage and start building her hazard stacks, and then tag in Robin King, who activates Puppet when he does a special. Thanks to the GK effect also being active, normally you spam a few special 3s to both do his percentage damage and apply the blind from Puppet, and then tag BWTD back in. But I spammed special 1 first, as when you are playing multiple phases you want to save Robin King's percentage health damage for the second phase. Then once the blind effect was applied I tagged in BWTD to quickly build her hazard, as he hazard energy also builds faster when Robin King's victim passive is active. You need GK, which is God Killer, on BWTD to reduce the damage Brainiac does. Some people with emulators or good devices can also do an infinite combo with BWTD using GK, but for that your device needs to support doing down swipes, which don't work that great on mine. Anyway, with my build I can wait for Robin King to apply blind with Puppet to allow BWTD to combo uninterrupted, so it is all good. Note that if this team had started in Phase 3 it would have had John Stewart Green Lantern as the third character, as he neutralizes secondary hazard effects from Phase 3. He also gives BWTD a hazard damage boost, which is really necessary. But given that we started in P2, which was Chaos Tajin, I only used BWTD and RK. Here for the 79 mil left in P3 we used Ascended Freeze Puppet, classic Superman Kondak statues of the gods, and Multiverse Armored Supergirl with Sword of Sin. Normally Freeze with Puppet or Beta is good enough to one-shot the full 300 million of P3. However, my Freeze is Ascended and power steals on critical hits, so I anticipated him extending this cleanup into doing some damage in P4 as well. I added classic Superman, who steals power with his special 2, and here was also equipped with the Kondak Statues of the Gods artifact, which is even better at power stealing than the Sword of Salvation artifact, as we will see in game. And Multiverse Armored Supergirl was using Sword of Sin, which power drains. These two characters and these two artifacts were added to support Freeze in P4, as sometimes with the increased power gen in P4 despite Freeze using Puppet, his Ascended Tech class passive of power stealing even with maxed out critical chance isn't enough to stop Brainiac from doing a super in P4. We all know that Brainiac, while he doesn't do specials in P4, he does good damage with basics, and his power builds up quickly, and if he does a super in P4 your entire team is knocked out. And he also has immunity to damage over time in P4. So you need to ensure you can power steal or power drain whilst do damage without damage over time to finish P4. Normally BWTD and RK can finish off P4, as BWTD can steal power with her SP2, and you can equip JSGL or AKBM, whoever is the third character, with a power stealing artifact. But here I should have added Vixen or another support besides Mvask who doesn't really add any passive outside the multiverse team, and was just there because I normally keep Sosin on her, and was too lazy to equip it on someone else. Here after finishing off 79 mil in P3 we only did 45 mil in P4, which was disappointing. If we had kept Brainiac in the freeze zone a bit more in P4 it could have worked. Ideally I should have used Beastie and Robin King to clean up P2 and P3 and then would have had 2 pips left to try BWTD along with JSGL and AKBM, or this freeze team, or the team I eventually used, to finish P4. This is my final pip for the day. I use Sword of Sin on Deathstroke so that he power drains with his specials and he also does percentage damage with his special too. I also use Power Stealing Sword of Salvation artifact on Rakba who anyway steals a little power on Tajin. Finally I use Puppet on Ascended Batman Ninja Batman who power steals when he crits. The ideal strategy was to finish off Rakba's percentage damage first as that is very quick and then do Deathstroke's percentage damage as doing Deathstroke first can somehow affect Rakba's percentage damage output. Then Batman Ninja Batman once we activate his puppet, we can spam his special one. Normally if you go to the corner and spam special one with him the opponent stays in the other corner, and the hazard bats from the special one do significant hazard damage to chip away at the opponent's health. But here we made the mistake of going for Deathstroke's percentage damage before finishing off Rakba as we also had to stop Brainiac from building up enough power to do his super. Further then we did not tag in Batman Ninja Batman enough and by the time we tried the tactic of keeping him in the corner and spamming special one it was too late. Nonetheless decent damage, and with the right technique this team would have finished off P4 and this raid. So that is it from my side. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know there are plenty of people with plenty of strategies for finishing of P1 to P4, and there are some free-to-play strategies for one-shotting P1 to P3 as well. But my purpose in this video was to show you alternate teams and strategies for these phases, particularly if you are stepping in between an active raid where others have also done some damage to the phases. Do let me know your comments and what content you want to see next, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button